The dust was so thick I could taste it. It got into my mouth with every breath, a constant reminder of the abandonment that permeated every inch of Everglen Manor. I don't know why I insisted on coming. Maybe it was the local legend, the constant whisper of the town elders about voices and shadows on the property. Or maybe deep down, I just wanted to prove them wrong, to show that logic and reason would always prevail over ghost stories. I should have stayed home, got the door, creaked in a drawn-out moan when I pushed it open, revealing a dark, oppressive hall. The faint light entering through the dusty windows barely illuminated the central chandelier, hanging by a rusty wire like a metallic skeleton waiting to fall. The air inside the house was dense, heavy, smelling of mold, old wood, and something else. Something I couldn't identify, but which churned my stomach. The silence was what bothered me most. A silence so profound it seemed to swallow every sound, even the beating of my own heart, which now hammered in my chest. I took a hesitant step inside, and the floorboards groaned under my weight, a lament that echoed through the empty house. I went to the living room, where furniture covered by. White sheets looked like ghostly figures, frozen in time. A fallen, cobweb-covered bookshelf was the only trace of a life that once existed there. As my eyes adjusted to the gloom, I swore I heard something. A faint, dragging sound coming from upstairs. I held my breath, my heart pounding. It must be the wind, I thought, trying to calm myself. But the windows were closed, and there was no breeze outside. The sound repeated, clearer this time, as if someone were dragging their feet across the wooden floor. My hands were sweating as I forced myself up the grand staircase, the steps creaking under my feet with each stride. The darkness upstairs was almost complete. I turned on my phone's flashlight, and the beam of light danced across the walls, revealing blurred portraits and faded wallpaper. The cold air embraced me, a shiver running down my spine. That's when I heard it. Clear, distinct, a whisper. It wasn't the wind, nor old wood. It was a voice, low and indistinct, coming from the end of the corridor. My body froze. I wanted to run, to scream, but my feet seemed glued to the floor. Macabre curiosity, or perhaps shock, compelled me to move forward. The whisper grew louder, and now I could make out a few words, though slurred and distorted, as if being spoken underwater. They sounded like calls, laments, the sound of ancient pain. The light from my flashlight trembled in my shaky hands as I approached the last door in the corridor. It was ajar, revealing a sliver of even denser darkness. The whisper came from within. With an uncontrollable tremor, I pushed the door open. A vast, empty room was revealed, devoid of furniture, with only a broken window through which the deepening night's darkness seeped in. The whisper filled the space surrounding me. From all sides, the words now clear but terrifying. You shouldn't have come. He's waiting. It wasn't one voice. There were several, overlapping, mingling into a ghostly chorus that seemed to penetrate my bones. I felt an intense chill, an invisible presence that enveloped me, suffocating me. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw a shadow move in my peripheral vision, quick and fleeting. My mind screamed at me to run. When I tried to turn, I felt something cold and ethereal touch me. An icy touch that climbed up my arm, making my muscles clench in panic. A scream escaped my throat, but it was muffled by the whispers that now became shouts, laughter, and cries all at once, a pandemonium of ghostly sounds. I fell to the floor, the flashlight rolling away, plunging the room into total darkness. The whispers intensified, now directly in my ears, and I felt an overwhelming weight on me, as if hundreds of invisible hands were pushing me down. I closed my eyes, begging for it all to stop, for me to wake up from this nightmare. But I wasn't dreaming, and as the darkness of Everglen Manor swallowed me, the last sound I heard before everything went black was a piercing laugh, echoing through the walls, promising that I would never leave that place. Did the protagonist escape Everglen Manor, or did he become another one of the voices whispering in its corridors? The darkness swallowed me, dense and cold, but it wasn't the void I expected. Instead, a flood of images and sounds inundated my mind. Flashes of pale, distorted faces, whispers that transformed into screams of agony, and the sensation of drowning. In despair, I couldn't move my limbs nor open my eyes. I was trapped, paralyzed, a prisoner of an endless nightmare. Suddenly, a biting cold awoke me. I opened my eyes, gasping. I was lying on the dusty floor, a few feet from the haunted room's door. My phone's flashlight lay beside me, its light flickering. The air in the room was still heavy, but the chorus of voices had diminished to a distant hum. Like an echo of a recent nightmare, my head throbbed and my body ached as if I had been beaten. I tried to stand, but my legs gave out and I fell back to the floor. A shiver ran down my spine when my fingers touched something wet on the floorboards. I looked at my hand and saw a dark, viscous liquid. It was blood. Not mine. Fear propelled me. With immense effort, I managed to crawl away from that stain, getting up unsteadily. My vision was blurry, but I managed to locate the staircase. With each step, I felt the whispers intensify again, as if the house was pulling me back into its depths. I ran, stumbling down the steps, almost falling several times. I reached the entrance hall, my heart pounding in my chest. The main door was ajar, a glimpse of freedom outside. I pushed it with all the strength I had left, and it creaked, opening a little wider. The faint light of dawn blinded me for an instant, but I didn't care. I just wanted to get out of there. When I finally stepped onto the overgrown lawn of the ruined garden, I felt the fresh air in my lungs. The relief was overwhelming, but it was short-lived. Looking back at the imposing Everglen Manor, something caught my attention. One of the upstairs windows, the same one from the haunted room, was illuminated by a ghostly light. And in the center of the window, a slender shadow was cast, watching me. It wasn't a human figure. It was something more elongated, distorted, like an aberration. My blood ran cold. The shadow seemed to wave, an eerie greeting. I ran. I ran as I had never run before, without looking back, without stopping to breathe, until Everglen Manor was just a distant speck on the horizon. I reached the town, exhausted and trembling. My clothes were dirty, my body scratched, and my phone, the only proof of what I had experienced, was destroyed. I tried to tell what had happened, but my words seemed like madness. No one believed me. They looked at me with pity, convinced I had had a nervous breakdown or had been influenced by local legends. Since that day, I've never been the same. My nights are filled with nightmares of Everglen Manor, of the whispers and the shadow in the window. I try to move on, but the feeling that something is following me, that something from that house clung to me, never leaves. Sometimes, in the silence of the night, I swear I still hear it. No longer a chorus, but a single whisper, low and sinister, calling my name. Did Everglen Manor let me go? Or did it just free me, so I would carry a piece of its terror with me? What do you think happened to me in that house? I lived with the fear, the paranoia. Every shadow seemed to writhe. Every whisper of the wind made me hold my breath. Everglen Manor had become the constant landscape of my nightmares, a ghost in my own mind. I alienated myself from everything, my friends, my family. No one understood, no one even tried. Until one night, months later, the whisper changed. It was no longer a distant lament, nor a veiled threat. It was closer, clearer, and had a different tone. It was almost pleading. And what was most disturbing, the voice seemed familiar. I was home, locked in my room, when I heard it clearly. Help me. The voice seemed to come from inside my own head. I didn't know what to think. Was I going crazy? Had the trauma finally consumed me? The whispers became more frequent, more insistent. You have to come back. He took me. The thought of returning to Everglen Manor was hell, but the voice, It tormented me with an urgency I couldn't ignore. There was something genuine there, a pain that resonated with my own, and there was the undeniable recognition in the voice. Finally, I gave in, driven by a mix of terror and a morbid curiosity I never knew I possessed. I took what remained of my savings, threw a few things into a backpack, and with my heart in my throat, took a bus back to that forgotten town. Everglen Manor stood there, imposing and sinister, just as I remembered it. The tall grass swayed in a ghostly breeze, and the dark windows seemed to watch me. The sun was setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and purple, casting long distorted shadows that made the house seem even more menacing. This time, there was no hesitation. I opened the door that seemed to be waiting for me. The dense, cold air enveloped me, and the whispers began immediately louder, clearer. "Here, come here." It seemed to guide me, pulling me upstairs. I climbed the stairs, each step an echo of my previous terror. I reached the upstairs corridor, and the whisper led me directly to the room where everything had happened. The door was open, and the twilight. Light entered through the broken window, illuminating the dancing dust. The whisper was now almost a lament, coming from a dark corner of the room. "I'm here." He took me. I approached, fear almost paralyzing me. And then I saw him. In the corner, huddled and trembling, was a little boy, perhaps 7 or 8 years old. He was dressed in old, torn clothes, and his large, frightened eyes watched me. "You came," he whispered, his voice identical to the one I'd heard in my mind. "He trapped me here. He won't let me leave." I froze, not understanding. "Who trapped you?" I asked, my voice a little louder than I intended. The boy pointed to the opposite wall, where the window light didn't reach. "The Shadow Man," he whispered, eyes wide. "He lives in the shadows of this house. He feeds on fear. And he used me to bring you back." He paused, his eyes fixed on me. "But I'm scared too. And you're the only one who can help me." He's getting stronger. I looked at the boy, the true ghost, trapped in his own prison of terror. And then the air in the room grew drastically colder. The shadows in the corner of the room seemed to deepen, and an oppressive presence settled in. I turned, and in the darkness, I swore I saw the slender shadow move again. It wasn't the house that was haunted. It was the boy, a kind of involuntary medium, caught in a web of fear woven by the true monster of Everglen Manor, the Shadow Man who fed on the terror of his victims. And now he had both of us. The house wasn't the predator. It was the cage. Could I save the boy, and perhaps myself, from the true horror lurking in the shadows of Everglen Manor? Or would we simply be two more whispers added to the eternal chorus of the house?